Welcome, everyone, to the Insurance Perspectives podcast. This is part 2 of our series on Formstack and HawkSoft E-Signature. On today's show, we have Zach Pines, VP of Partnerships at Formstack.
Kenny, great to be here. Fumbled with the mute button, but great to be here.
All good. It's a callback to episode 1. And C Wogomon of Catalyst Insurance Group.
Hey, guys. Pleasure to be here.
Excellent. If you missed part 1 in our series on Formstack, please go back and give it a listen to hear more from Zach. For part 2, we turn to our mutual customer of HawkSoft and Formstacks to learn how HawkSoft E-Signature, powered by Formstack, is used inside a real independent agency. C Wogomon is founder, owner, agency principal of Catalyst Insurance Group out of Greenwood, Indiana. He has been in the insurance industry for over 20 years, and Catalyst Insurance Group started using HawkSoft in January of 2021. I haven't personally had a chance yet to get to know JC very well, so I asked around the office, and I talked with Tiffany, one of our customer success managers and formerly the software consultant who trained Catalyst Insurance Group on HawkSoft. Tiffany gave me a ton of glowing information about JC, and she capped it off by saying, JC is always prepared and ready to learn. I'm in a position where I'm ready to learn right now. Let's see how prepared JC is to answer our questions. And Tiffany does say hi, by the way.
It's like bringing up an old girlfriend or something. I kind of forgot all about Tiffany. She was excellent.
Yeah, she is. She's fantastic. I work with her a lot in customer success now. And we have our whole software consultant team is great onboarding agencies. So we always ask each of our mutual customers the same 5 questions, just like we do with our partners, because we want listeners to be able to pick this episode up and see how the answers compare to other systems that they might be considering. We start off similar to with our partners. I would love to know the story behind the Catalyst Insurance Group. How long you've been in business, how many people are working for you, what do you specialize in, all the details so that a listener can know, hey, I'm like this agency, or maybe I'm a little different.
Well, I find it an honor to be on these podcasts because it wasn't very long ago where I set out to open an independent agency from scratch and didn't really know where to go or what to do. And it was podcasts like these that really helped set up my framework for how I was going to do my agency. So now that we've kind of fast forwarded, I'll go back to the beginning. There's a lot to my story, and we could do a whole podcast on that. And I have in several other podcasts. But, I graduated from Ball State University back in 2001. And went to work right out of college for Federated Insurance, captive commercial company, excellent company. But again, part of that captive framework model, did really well with them for several years. And then, when the economy flipped in 2008, I found myself in a very difficult position, again, being captive, and lost quite a bit of business over a 12-month period of time. And I kind of found myself losing faith in the captive model, not in the company. Federated is still a great company today, but I did lose a little faith in the captive model. Stuck it out for another couple of years, left, went to work for Brown & Brown for a year. And just, it wasn't a good fit for me. Good organization, obviously, you can't argue with results. Culturally, it wasn't a good fit for me. And so it was at that point in time I decided to leave the insurance industry altogether. I spent several years doing a lot of different things. But primarily, I found myself working for greedy, unethical people. And I kind of got tired of it, to be honest with you. And so after one of those straws that broke the camel's back, I said, no more. I'm going to go open my own business. And so my wife said, well, why don't you get back into insurance? I said, heck no way, not happening. Don't want anything to do with that. I had a full head of hair before I got into insurance. So, but it's funny how it works, funny how things work out. I had a plan that I thought I was a plan, and that wasn't necessarily my plan, apparently. Mm-hmm. So sitting in church one day, I heard a sermon that kind of really struck a chord with me. And It was at that point in time I knew what I was going to do. I was going to open an independent insurance agency, do it from scratch, and I was going to do it with the purpose of making an impact in and around our community. So that's what we're really passionate about. Again, I know that's not the crux of this podcast, so I'll save that for another time. But we do give a portion back of everything we bring in back to our community to elevate the human condition or support our military veterans and first responders. So started the agency August 1st of 2019 from scratch. And I opened it with the mindset that I was an intern in my own agency. I was going to let my business and my customers tell me how to run my business, because having been out of the industry for a full 8 years before I opened the business, I didn't really come from perspective. It wasn't that I had this suite of products I was using and I was going to tweak that. It wasn't I had this customer experience that I didn't like, I was going to tweak that. I was less than scratch. Okay. Some people come into the business and they start on the 50-yard line. Some people they start on the 20-yard line. I mean, I was out in the parking lot. I wasn't even in the stadium yet. So I knew what coverages were, right? I knew what a deductible was and what liability insurance was, but I had no idea how to build an agency. And so I knew that going into it. So I kind of had the mindset that, hey, I'm going to let the business teach me. So I sought as much information as I could. As I mentioned before, was on listened to podcasts, reached out and called and talked to some of the people that I'd heard on podcasts, started building my framework. And so I'll never forget the day I walked into my office. It was a 15 by 15 office space. It had 4 desks in it. I had one of those 4 desks. I walk in, unlock the door. I can still hear that click in my mind when I unlocked that door, turned on the light switch, sat down at the desk, pulled my laptop out, opened it up, took a deep breath and said, I have no revenue, no customers, no systems, and no idea what in the heck I'm doing. And that is where it started. I wrote my first policy and then off and away we went. Today we're having really good growth. We have 2 producers and a virtual employee. So that brings our office staff to a total of 4, including myself. And, I made a conscious decision a couple of years ago. Okay, I'm trying to do everything for everybody, and that's not working. I was doing some commercial, I was doing some personal, and I was chasing both and doing a really bad job at both ends of that spectrum. And so made a conscious effort to focus on personal lines because that was going to be the easiest to duplicate to bring other people in. So we really focused on the customer experience because what I was quickly realizing is that our industry is so old and so big, and I don't have to sugarcoat this. We do not exactly have the best reputation to customers as making this an easy business to deal with.
Yeah.
And that'll come full circle. Zach, you touched on customer experience, right? And so everything I have done has been from the perspective of I'm a guy that's married with 2 kids sitting at my office. I get my insurance renewal. I'm not happy with it, and I need to find new insurance. So that process has always been at the forefront of everything that we have done. So we built out our whole personal lines process around that mindset. And market conditions being what they are right now, have kind of dictated that we pivot a little bit and start, trying to replicate that process with commercial, and again, keeping that client experience at the forefront. Insurance is not fun. Insurance stinks. In fact, we try to make it stink a little bit less. Is really in a roundabout way what we've tried to do.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love a mission-driven company. So I'm so glad that I did not know more about Catalyst Insurance Group coming into this, because I loved hearing that. I loved learning that. I think that's kind of the right way to approach business and the right way to look for a purpose in what you do. Trying to think if I had any. So I guess the question I have to wrap up that first little bit about your agency is, so for you personally, what gets you excited about insurance right now?
What gets me excited about insurance is what we can do with insurance, both for our communities, both for our customers, and our employees, because our industry is so big, right? It is so big that it provides a unique opportunity for those that want to be in it from a employee perspective, because everybody has to have what we offer. And our industry is so crowded. It's so crowded, and I apologize that this is going to come out this way, but it is so crowded with average players.
Sure.
Right. And I tell my employees this all the time. We don't have to be leagues better than our competition. We just need to stand on our tippy toes, and we're going to stand out like a sore thumb compared to our competitors. You know, our industry is very old. It's very stale. People have been doing it the same way for 40 years. And that's how if it ain't broke, why fix it? Right. You know, I'm a Chicago Cubs fan, and it's kind of like the Cubs. They're packing the stadium every weekend, every game. Why invest in a team that's going to win? You know, it's so many agents have that mindset. And I saw opportunity there to really make a difference and to give people a better experience and try to make this thing easier for them.
I love that. And that's probably the best segue we can have into, you know, what were you looking for when you first encountered HawkSoft E-Signature powered by Formstack?
You know, when I look at the partners that I use, and I use probably more tech than most agencies out there, because that insurance buying process is filled with friction points, and trying to figure out how can we sand down those friction points to make them smoother. And almost every time there's a technology partner out there that identified that friction point and said, how can we make this easier? Well, how can we make this part of the process better? And so when I'm looking at a technology partner, number one, is it affordable, right? Number two, is it scalable? Okay. Number three, is it easy to use? Is it going to be easy to set up internally? Is it going to be easy for our employees to use? And then the fourth thing is it going to be easier for the customer? If it doesn't make the customer's life easier or our employees' life easier, then it's not really a good fit for us from a technology perspective, right? So that's kind of my criteria that I look at is this going to make the process more efficient and easier all the way around?
And so when Brandon on our sales team probably met you in 2020, and you signed the contract at the end of the year and started in January 2021. Was HawkSoft E-Signature, did you hit the ground running with HawkSoft using our E-Signature platform, or did it come after you started using the management system?
So a really funny story about Brandon. I actually met him 2 weeks after I opened my agency.
Oh, fantastic.
A gentleman that probably everybody that is involved with HawkSoft knows, Chris Paradiso, was having a marketing seminar up in Chicago. And being new to the industry, again, I was a student, right? So I drove up there to hear what he had to say and learn. And that's where I first met Brandon. My agency had been open for 2 weeks. I was steered in a certain direction by another agent I had talked to prior to opening my agency. And so I wasn't with HawkSoft at that point in time. But through, you know, you already talked about it earlier about owning your data and are not being data muled. And that, again, that's a whole nother podcast, but, it was through that process that I came to start looking at HawkSoft, and I value the opinion of others, right? Like a Mr. Paradiso. And so, when I was looking at new platforms, I was using the e-signature that was in my previous platform.
Gotcha.
It wasn't until I got in some of the Facebook forums with other agency owners that I realized most of them were using an e-signature platform that was outside of their agency management system. I didn't even know that existed. That didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Again, it's a blessing and a curse to come into this industry with no perspective, right? It's a blessing because I didn't have that perspective. I didn't have that friction. I was looking for what made the most logical sense. So, it was I wouldn't say it was a reason that I went with HawkSoft, but what it was, well, these are the tools in the toolbox, right? You know, I go to that vendor page, your partnership page, and I'm like, okay, these are the tools that are available that HawkSoft works with. So I need an e-signature platform. This just makes the most logical sense. I would love to say that, Zach, that you overwhelmed me with your features and benefits of your product, but it was easy and available and affordable.
Excellent.
Yeah, and we talked about it. I mentioned it on the first podcast, but yeah, to me, system of record. You're making a choice for HawkSoft for your system of record, so I would expect kind of the first big checkbox is works directly with HawkSoft E-Signature. That's why, sorry, works directly with HawkSoft. That's why HawkSoft E-Signature is such a good choice.
Absolutely. And then, you know, some partners provide really expansive feature-rich platforms, which is definitely true for Formstack. Others provide focused, powerful tools and services, also true for Formstack because of the breadth of their product offering. But we want to kind of consciously focus on specific changes with an agency empowered by the partners we're talking to. So we kind of see it as there's a world before you start working with them, and then there's a world after, and how are they different. So I'd love to know what can Catalyst Insurance Group do now with HawkSoft E-Signature that you couldn't do before?
I'm probably not the best candidate to answer this question
Sure.
because I've always just used the e-signature platform that was available inside my agency management
Mm-hmm.
system,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I do find it super simple when I'm trying to teach our new producers and new staff members how to send documents for e-signature, because I say, all right, upload the document, right click, send for e-signature, set it up, get it back, reattach it, we're out, right? It's like I'm assuming there's other ways out there that probably aren't that convenient, but I'm not familiar with them because I've
Sure.
never used them, right? It's I don't really know too terribly many ways that this could be improved upon, but it's super simple and super easy, and it works.
Nice. And so I assume you use it if you have a proposal, an accord form, a change request. You're sending all of those out through HawkSoft e-Signature.
Yes, anything that needs signed. I'm big. One of the things I made very conscious decisions when I opened my agency. Number one, it has to be able to be ran from anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to go on vacation with my family, as long as I have my laptop and an internet connection, I can run it. So it checked that box, right?
Mm-hmm.
Second thing that I hate is paper. Okay, you can see I have a file cabinet right there. There is no paper in it. It is a glorified storage unit.
Gotcha.
We do not have paper files anywhere in our office. And so that included, I was not going to do wet signatures,
Mm-hmm.
like unless I absolutely had to, which that's an argument with some certain carriers in certain situations anyway. But I was not going to do paper. I hated paper. When I first went into the insurance business, I had two big lateral files
Mm-hmm.
of that had 4 drawers each that just had folders in them. And just the thought of that gives me anxiety,
Yeah.
right? Because it just so I don't do paper, and
Yeah.
that means I don't do wet signatures. So I
Excellent.
had to have an e-signature platform that was easy to use, that was scalable and affordable.
Absolutely. And I can appreciate that. One of the most powerful pieces of marketing collateral that HawkSoft has is just the expense an agency incurs when they continue to use paper, they continue to store files. I had one agent, I had an agent, great agent out of San Francisco. He recently retired from the business, but he would always joke that I just lost 200 pounds because he finally got rid of his filing cabinets. That was his good John Morton out of San Francisco. Credit to that joke when he finally went paperless. So I can appreciate that.
Guys, there was a good Formstack marketing campaign a couple of years ago called Big Paper, and it was
uh,
really funny. You might remember Kenny, but if you Google or YouTube Big Paper Formstack, you'll see really funny videos that were, Big Paper was the enemy, and it was this basically like this corporation, and it was
yeah.
all about sort of like taking down Big Paper as the enemy.
Oh, definitely. And those are great ads. It's a great campaign. I do encourage people, and then I'll put extra work on our producers' hands if we can include that in the episode description. Um, Fair is fair. In part one, we gave Zach the opportunity to make some observations, as he very politely put it, about working with insurance agencies. Zach is always a lot more polite than I am in these situations. But it was a great turn of phrase for it. So, I mentioned in that part one that we want to travel down the other side of the road. I will say that the bumpers we usually put on this, the little barrier we put in the road, is obviously everything comes down to price at a certain point. So we want to go beyond that. We want to go deeper. But JC, now that you're in the hot seat and have an opportunity to push back, what is one thing that you would like to change about HawkSoft E-Signature if you could?
I only get one. I got two good ones.
Okay, you can give us two. We'll see.
Two, yeah. Go for it.
I'm big on branding, right? I don't have carrier plaques on my walls, not because I'm ashamed of my carriers, not because I don't love my carriers, but my client's relationship is with me and our agency. It is with Catalyst Insurance Group. People ask, who are you insured with? I want them to say Catalyst Insurance Group, not XYZ carrier, right? So one thing I would like to see is when we bridge over and the client logs in, I know a lot of our payment platforms do this. I know there's a lot of other tech platforms out there that enable us to white label the page. There's that word you talked about in the first episode, that white glove, Zach. But being able to just simply upload our logo and white label that logo for our signature, for our e-signature. That way the client views it as a seamless experience with our agency, right? It's not like I'm getting sent somewhere else. Even though, it's obvious that they are, but it would just be nice to have that. That's the easy one. The other one, and I don't even know if it's possible to do, but the one chink in the process is that when the e-signature is completed, that we have to manually go back in and upload that document back into HawkSoft. And I've talked to a lot of tech CEOs in our industry, and everybody's like, yeah, y'all think it's so easy to just put a button on an app somewhere or a web page, but you have no idea the amount of programming that goes in behind that. And I'm assuming this is one of those issues. Man, I tell you, if there was a way to automate that document getting put back into HawkSoft, that would be the cat's meow. You would have it. You'd have it at that point. Simple process things that save times, that save energy, save complexity, save an opportunity for a human error. Those are always beneficial.
Let's my response is let's timestamp that, and that'll be a good clip to play back to a future collaborative session between Formstack and HawkSoft product teams. We'll use that, JC, in future input sessions. Both great ideas, and both I think particularly the round trip, as I would call it, is definitely something that we can take back to the shop.
And I want to attest, this is my first time meeting JC. Second, it's part two, second time. But I did not pay JC to make that observation. And I do want to state and attest that Formstack and HawkSoft are definitely aware of this request, and we have been in consistent talks. Listeners are very well aware that HawkSoft has been deep in a migration between our HawkSoft 5 and our HawkSoft 6 platform. Formstack also has their own expansive development roadmap. But this is, I completely agree with Zach. We're gonna get a special clip of that, and we're just gonna stand with a boombox or a portable DVD player outside of Formstack's office.
That sounds like your politician's version of saying "I told you so."
Never. I would never stoop to that level.
It's the literal voice of the customer. So
yep.
It's much appreciated. Yeah.
So, as a way to kind of wrap up this conversation with our last question for you, JC, inclusive of features, workflows, any other tangible benefit, I'd love to know, how would you describe the value that HawkSoft E-Signature powered by Formstack brings to your agency?
My whole premise, and I think I led to this in my intro, was that I want to make the process of purchasing and owning an insurance contract simpler for our clients. It's not an easy process. It will never be a super easy process, but I believe as independent agents and partners, we can make it easier for the client. There's no reason that it has to be this difficult and cumbersome, especially with the amount of technology that is available, our abilities to talk to each other. When I mean the softwares to talk to each other through integrations and those types of things. So one of the things that I continue, and I never search for another solution outside of e-signature with HawkSoft, powered by Formstack, or I think I got that right, is that it makes the process easy for my customers, right? It makes it simpler. I don't need to stick around till 5:45 so Aunt Betty can come in and sign her insurance applications, right? If that's the way I had to do it, I don't know, I would have found a different industry, right? But there's still agents out there that's the only way they do it. And so, I want to be able to be with my family, not all the time, but if I'm with my family and I need to take care of something. True story. This just reminded me. One of my largest client that's in my book of business waited till the last minute to wrap everything up. I was going on spring break with my family, the first away vacation I had. It was the Friday of vacation, the last day of the vacation. The client finally urgently, when I sent them saying, hey, I can't get this process with the bank until you sign this document, right? That was the trigger that finally motivated them to go through with the process. I am literally sitting at the resort by the pool at Universal Studios with my laptop open, setting up an e-signature document to send to them so that they can sign it and I can forward it on to the E&S broker wholesaler. That's the kind of functionality that makes both their lives easier and mine. And that is the value that something like Formstack brings, is the fact that it's easily integrated, easily stored in our, document records, that makes it easy. So.
Perfect. I love stories like that. I've heard of folks out on fishing trips out in the middle of the ocean having to do it. In my product support days, I once got a phone call and our caller ID read like Four Seasons Hawaii, and I was just like, agents, you need vacations, but I totally respect that because you protect your communities the way you do. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of an audible and send that document out poolside. I think that's an amazing way to cap this off. JC, Zach, thank you so much for participating in our series on Formstack. I really appreciate the insight and input that you both brought to the table. Thank you for watching today's episode. Click the video description below to learn more about our guests and to view the latest podcast episode as well as other content from HawkSoft. We appreciate you watching and hope you join us next time on the Insurance Perspectives podcast. Thank you.